Fire your worst client today. The Red Flag Audit and Breakup Script. One bad client cost us more than millions in lost revenue. Not because they didn't pay, but because they slowed everything down, pulled senior time, killed margins, and dragged the whole team into chaos. On paper, they looked like a big client. In reality, they were blocking growth. If a client pays late, ignores your process, keeps asking for more, and then blames you for delays, they're already costing you more than they pay. And the longer you keep them, the more your business starts to bend around them. In this video, I'll show you a simple red flag checklist to spot them fast, a clear rule to decide when to pause, fix, or exit, and the exact words to end it cleanly. I'm Sean. I run a multi-million-dollar service business, and this is the system we use to decide who stays and who goes. What a worst client actually looks like. Let's make it simple. A bad client is not someone who has one bad day. It's someone who keeps doing the same wrong things again and again. And if you don't stop it early, it becomes normal. Here are the 5 signs. If you see these, you need to pay attention. The first sign is paying late or arguing invoices repeatedly. You do the work, you send the bill, they don't pay on time. Then instead of paying, they start asking questions to delay it. Why is this so high? Can you explain this again? That's not how it should work. The second sign is ignoring the process and then blaming the outcomes. You tell them what you need, they don't send it, or they send it late. Then, when things don't go well, they blame you. For example, you need approval to start. They take 10 days. Then ask, why are results slow? They didn't follow the steps, but you take the blame. Next sign is constant scope expansion without budget. You agreed on one thing. Now they keep adding more. Can you do this? Quick change. But it keeps growing. You hired for one service and now you're doing 2 or 3 extra things without getting paid more. Fourth sign is artificial emergencies from their internal chaos. Everything becomes urgent, but it's not real urgency. They just didn't plan properly. So they wait to the last minute, then suddenly need everything done today. Now your whole day gets disrupted because of their poor planning. Fifth sign is disrespecting your team or undermining authority. They go around you and message your team directly. They question your decisions and don't follow your system. They tell your team, just do it my way, even if it breaks your process. Now your team is confused and your control is gone. You can feel something is wrong with a client, but you're not sure if it's bad enough to act. So you wait, and while you wait, the problem grows. So instead of guessing, let's make it simple. The red flag audit, a simple yes or no check. Think of this like a checklist. You go one by one and answer yes or no. That's it. Every time you answer yes, that's one red flag. Let's go through it. First question, are invoices overdue? You send the bill and instead of paying, they delay it again and again. You remind them once, then twice. If this keeps happening, that's a yes. Second, have they asked for out-of-scope work more than 2 times in the last 30 days? If this happens more than twice recently, that's a yes. Third, do they bypass your SOPs or systems? If they don't stick to how you work, that's a yes. Fourth, do they delay approvals and then blame timelines? If this keeps happening, that's a yes. Fifth, is gross margin below your target? This means after you pay your team and costs, are you left with less money than you expected? If you are doing a lot of work but not making enough, that's a yes. Sixth, are they using too much senior management time? Like you or your most experienced people keep getting pulled into small issues for this one client, more than other clients. If that's happening, that's a yes. Seventh, has the team morale dipped because of them? When this client's name comes across, your team gets quiet or stressed. Maybe they complain about this account. That's a yes. 8, do they threaten to leave or mention competitors regularly? They say things like, another agency can do this cheaper, or we might switch. If they say this often, that's a yes. 9, do they ignore your communication cadence? You set weekly calls or updates, but they cancel, don't reply, or disappear. Then they come back later with problems. That's a yes. And last, the most important question. 10th, if you met them today, would you sign them again at the same price? Forget about the past. Think about right now. If your honest answer is no, that's a very strong yes for a red flag. Now count your yes answers. Each one is a signal. And in the next part, I'll show you exactly what to do with that number. The decision rule. What to do based on your score. Now you have your answers, so let's make the decision simple. The first rule is about payment. If there is any payment issue, that's a red flag, so you pause immediately. For example, if an invoice is overdue and they are delaying again, you stop the work until it is paid. You don't keep working and hope they fix it later. You pause first, then continue. Now look at your total red flags. If you have 3 red flags active, you escalate. You tell your client what needs to change. You reset your boundaries and make your process clear again. You're giving them a chance to fix things, but you're also making it clear that things cannot continue like this. If you have 5 or more red flags, you exit. At this point, it's not a small issue, it's a pattern. For example, they pay late, ask for extra work, ignore your process, and stress out your team. Even if they pay a lot, the damage is bigger than the money. So you end the relationship cleanly and move on. And if this feels hard, that's completely normal, because most people wait too long. We did the exact same thing in the beginning. We kept bad clients because the revenue looked good. But slowly, margins dropped, the teams got stressed, and the business went from highly profitable to barely making money. It didn't break overnight, it happened slowly, and it took almost 2 years to fix. That's why now there are clear red lines. But before you remove a client, there's one more step. Fix it first. 2 options before you let them go. Sometimes the problem is not the client alone. It's also that your rules are too loose. So before you decide to end it, you give them one clear chance to fix things. You don't wait forever. You test this for 30 days only. After that, you decide. Option 1 is to raise the price and tighten the scope. This means you clearly say what you will do and what you will not do, and you charge properly for it. So if they keep asking you for extra work, you stop saying yes for free. You explain, this is not included. If you want this, the price will increase. Now 2 things can happen. A bad client will usually say no and leave. A good client will understand and try to stay. Either way, the problem becomes clear very quickly. Option 2 is strict prepay and strict process. This means simple rules. No payment, no work. No inputs, no progress, and no exceptions at all. If they don't pay on time, you don't start. If they don't send what you need, you pause the work. You're just making it clear that they have to follow the system. Now you only test these changes for 30 days, not 2 months, not 6 months. If things improve, you keep the client. If nothing changes, you don't keep trying. You already have your answer. You need to break things off with them. The breakup. What to say and how to say it. This part is simple. You stay calm, you stay clear, and you don't argue. First, you write an email. Hey, we've reviewed the account and decided to end our engagement. Our last working day will be this and this. We will complete any agreed work until then. After that, we will hand over all files, access, and anything you need. A final invoice will be sent for any remaining work. We won't be taking additional requests outside the current scope. We appreciate the time working together and wish you the best moving forward. Now, after the email, you may also have a quick call. Keep it short, around 30 seconds. You say it once clearly and then you stop talking. So you say, hey, I wanted to let you know that we've decided to end the engagement. We'll continue until this date and make sure everything is handed over properly. After that, we'll close things out. I'll send you all of the details via email. Then you stop. If they push back or ask questions, you don't argue and you don't explain too much. For example, if they say why, you say, we've reviewed things internally and this is the decision we've made. That's it. Because you are not trying to convince them, you are just closing things properly. But ending your project is not just about saying goodbye. You also need to protect your work and follow 3 simple steps so nothing goes wrong after. Protect yourself. What you must do before you close it. First, lock down access and permissions. This means you control who can see and use what. So if they had access to your tools, accounts, or shared folders, you review everything. You review anything they should not have after the end date. At the same time, you make sure they have access to what belongs to them. You don't leave things open or unclear. Second, document what work is done and what is not. This means you write it down clearly. You list what was agreed, what is completed, and what is still pending. So if later they say you didn't finish, you can show exactly what was included and what was not. This keeps things clean and avoids arguments. Third, confirm the invoice and terms. This means you make sure all payments and rules are clear. So you send the final invoice and remind them of any terms in the agreement, like the end date or outstanding balance. If there is money left to be paid, you make it clear when and how it should be paid. These steps might feel small, but they matter a lot. Because once the relationship ends, you want everything to be clear, simple, and closed properly. Now, before you close this properly, there are a few mistakes you need to avoid because they can turn a clean exit into a messy situation very quickly. The mistakes that make this worse. The first mistake is firing in anger. This usually happens after a bad call or a frustrating message. The client says something disrespectful and you reply immediately with, "We're done." In that moment, it feels right. But later it creates confusion, arguments, and sometimes even problems with payments. So instead, you slow down. You decide calmly, then communicate clearly. The second mistake is over-explaining or debating. You feel like you need to justify your decision, so you keep talking. You start explaining every small issue, every past problem, trying to make them understand. But this usually turns into a back and forth. They argue, you explain more. Nothing gets better, so you keep it simple. You state the decision once and don't turn it into a discussion. The third mistake is letting it drag on for months, hoping it improves. This is the most common one. You notice problems, but you tell yourself, maybe next month this will be better. Then next month comes and it's still the same. While you wait, your time is wasted and your team gets tired and your business slows down. So instead of waiting too long, you follow the rules and act on time. If you avoid these three mistakes, everything becomes much easier because this process is not about emotion, it's about making a clean and clear decision. But all of this only works if you decide what kind of a business you want to run. The real lesson: what you allow becomes your culture. If you want a calm business, you have to follow your standards, even when it feels uncomfortable. If a client is paying late but bringing in money, it feels hard to pause the work. If a client is difficult but important, it feels easier to adjust and keep going. But every time you allow that, your team is watching. They learn what is okay and what is not. If you allow chaos for the sake of revenue, you are teaching your team that chaos is normal. And once that becomes normal, it spreads. Culture grows faster than revenue. So this is not just about one client. It's about the kind of business you are building every day. Do not wait for things to get worse before you act. Fix the problem early while it is still small. If you want the exact red flag audit checklist, comment audit and I'll share it with you. And if you want to see how fixing your offer and focusing on one clear outcome can prevent these problems in the first place, click here and watch the next video on generalist versus specialist and why doing everything keeps you broke.